Welcome to everyone. This week video will cover the SP500, gold and the Bitcoins market. This update will be for the week of December 18, 2023. If you like this video, don't forget to click on the like button, subscribe and click on the bell to make sure you don't miss any future videos. Before we start, make sure you read carefully the disclaimer. Let's start with the SP500. Since on the long-term chart, no much happened, we will start this update with the 80-day cycle. The Dow Jones Industrial Average made a new all-time high on December 13, so we can expect the SP500 will reach his 20-weeks target at 48.52. The SP500 is on his way to form his 80-day cycle peak. The low for this cycle is still expected on January 4, 2024. And the next one on March 11, 2024, which will be at the same time the next 20-week cycle. Technically, the SP500 should find support on his cycle lines, which will be at that time at 45.56. The success rate is 100%. If trade the 80-day cycle, from the November 3rd signal, the potential profit was an average of 180 points or 4.18% in 12 days. The 40-day cycle. The next 40-day cycle low is still expected on January 4, 2024. The success rate is 81%. Technically, during the next correction, the market should cross below his cycle line, providing a downside target, but since there is lots of bullishness in the SP500, there is a possibility the SP500 will find only support on his cycle line. Here are the cycle lines for this week and their potential targets. The last signal was on November 8, when the SP500 crossed above his cycle lines at 43.57 and 43.61. For a potential profit, respectively of 253 and 257 points or 5.81% and 5.9%. The 20-day cycle. This 20-day cycle low is expected on December 17. And the next one on January 4, 2024. During the next 20 days formation low, the SP500 should cross below his cycle line. Here the cycle line and their potential targets. The success rate is 89.47%. The 10-day cycle. The success rate for the 10-day cycle is 100%. The next low is scheduled for December 21. When the market is very bullish, like has been lately, it's very difficult to identify the short-term cycle lows, like the 10 days and sometimes the 20 days lows. The way to make it more easy to identify them, it's to go to the lower time frame, like hourly chart. But if trading the 20, 40 and 80 days cycles is not necessary to use the hourly chart to identify the 10 days and sometimes the 20 days lows. Now let's see the gold market. Just as reminder, to analyze the gold market, I use the GLD ETF. This gold update will be a short one, since there is no major change on the long-term picture. On the 20-week cycle, the 194.06 target should be reached on the next rally after the 80-day cycle. The next low for the 20-week cycle can be expected during the third week of February 2024. The success rate is 100%. The 80-day cycle. The December 11th low at 183.15 was the 80-day cycle low. This 80-day cycle low was 1 day early compared to the time target zone, which was between the 12 and 14. The next lows is expected on February 17, 2024. As expected in the last week update, the gold ETF found support on his cycle lines. The success rate for this cycle is 62.5%. The market should resume his uptrend on his way to form the 20-week cycle peak. The target is 194.06. If we took the weekly signal in mid-October, and if the market reaches target, this will be almost $13 or 7% of profits on almost 2 months. The 40-day cycle. The gold ETF found support on his cycle line, then rebound. This is the confirmation of the 80 days low on December 11, 2023. The GLD ETF should now keep moving up, to form the next 40 days peak, around December 28th. The next 40 days low is scheduled for January 14th, 2024. The success rate is 100%. The 20 days cycle. Today the market crossed above his cycle line at 188.60 FOT, a potential target at 194.05. For a potential profit of $5.45 or 289%. We need confirmation of the crossing this week, because the crossing occur on small day range. If we do not have confirmation, we will cancel the signal. The 183.15 December 11th low, meet the 183.46 downside target. The next 20 days low, should occur on December 28th. The success rate is 92.86%. The 10 days cycle. On Thursday the gold ETF crosses above his cycle line at 186.50 for a potential target at 189.85. Or a potential profit of $3.35 or 1.8%. The next day the market meet the target. The success rate for this cycle is 85.71%. Let's finish this update with the Bitcoins. The last Bitcoins update was on October 30th and November 6th. During those updates I was expected a bull run and a lots of volatility. Let's start with the 18-month cycle. As mentioned in the previous update, the last 18-month cycle was on November 2022. Since that time, we have one signal with the cycle line, it was in March 2023. When the Bitcoins cross above his cycle line at 24,150 for a potential target at 32,700. The potential profit was $8,550 or a little bit more than 35%. The success rate for the 18-month cycle is 100%. The December 8th high at 44,729 is part of this 18-month cycle peak, which should be in formation now. There even a high probability this high is the 18-month cycle peak. During the previous update, I was expecting a good amount of volatility. On Monday the Bitcoins lost 5%. The next 18-month cycle low is expected during the first quarter of 2024. There is a possibility the Bitcoins will find support on his cycle line. At that time the cycle line will be around 31,000. But to have a more precise price target we have to go to the lower time frame. 40-week cycle, there is no change since the last update. For that reason, I will skip the 40 weeks analysis and go directly to the 20 weeks. The last 20 weeks cycle formed a low on September 2023. The next low is expected on mid-January 2024. The last trading signal was on October 23rd, when the Bitcoins crossed above his cycle line, at 28,322, providing a potential target at 31,714. This signal give a potential profit of $3,392 or 12%. The Bitcoins reached his target the same week. The success rate is 75%. The 80 days cycle. During the last update, I mentioned the last 80 days cycle low occurred on September 11, 2023. The next one is expected on November 17th. The low was on November 13th at 34,948.50, 4 days early. The next one is expected to form on January 21st, 2024. How deep will be the next correction? There is two options. The first one is, if the 44,729 high is the 18-month cycle, then the Bitcoin should cross below his cycle line, providing a downside target. In this case, there is a high probability the market will find support on his 20-week cycle line. At that time the 20-week cycle line will be around 36,600, the red square on the chart. The second option. Since there is a lots of bullishness in the market, there is a possibility the market will find support on his cycle line. My favorite scenario is the first option. How and when are we going to know which option is the most likely to happen? When the Bitcoins crossed below the 80 days cycle uptrend line, the purple line, this will confirm the 20-week cycle is formed or in formation. So at the same time, will be the 80-day cycle peak. Then by watching where the 80-day cycle's peak occurred compared to the cycle peak, the red dashed line. If the 44,729 high is the 80 days peak, then the first option are more likely to happen. Because the peak occurred on the left side of the cycle, we call that left time translation, which is usually bearish. If the market rebound and make a higher high, the 44,729, and this high occur on the right side of the cycle, then the second option have more chance to occur. The last signal was on September 28, when the Bitcoins crossed above his cycle line at 26,126 for a potential target at 27,281. Or a potential profits of $1,155 or 4.4%. The success rate is 100%. The 40 days cycle. There is a very high probability the December high is the 40 days cycle peak. In this case, the Bitcoins should now move toward his cycle line and cross below to provide a downside target. When the Bitcoins will cross below the 40 days cycle uptrend line, this will confirm the 80 days peak is in formation or even already formed. This will help us to anticipate which scenario will be more likely to happen on the 80 days cycle. The next 40 days cycle low is expected on December 17, the yellow zone. The success rate for the 40 days cycle is 72.73%. The 20 days cycle. The December 11th is certainly the 20 days cycle low or part of it. The next one is scheduled for the December 28th. On December 13th, the Bitcoins crossed below his cycle line at 41,360, providing a downside potential target at 37,991, or a potential profits of $3,369 or 8.14%. The success rate is 92.31%. What's next? The Bitcoin should move toward his cycle line, cross above his cycle line, giving an upside target. If the market cross above his cycle line before reaching his 37,991 target, this will invalid the downside target and confirm it still have a lots of bullishness in the market. Here the cycle line for this week and their potential target if the market cross above this week. The 10 days cycle. On December 11th, the Bitcoins crossed below his cycle line at 43,850 for a potential target at 42,971, or $879 or 2%. The same day, the Bitcoins meet and exceed his target, making a low at 40,181. The next low is expected on December 18th. Then after, the Bitcoins will cross above his cycle line and will provide an upside potential target. Here the cycle line and their potential target. The success rate is 80%. In conclusion, on the SP500 we still have a lots of bullishness, but we have to be ready for an eventual peak formation. The gold market should resume his uptrend. The Bitcoins should start some correction. This is the end of this week's video. Thank you for following me. Next week, I will publish another market update.